drinking?
I have some.
Cup of Jen.
I know. It is Chip from Beauty and the Beast.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Jenessa Galbraith. This shining light of a human is incredible. She's an actor, writer, producer, director, singer-songwriter, entrepreneur, podcaster. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm missing some on that list. It's amazing. Listen, guys, this badass boss babe is the whole package, and someone who in a very short period of time captured my heart with her enthusiasm and her authenticity. Not only has this extraordinary woman written and submitted a TV show to Netflix recently, she has co-produced a full album for a band she's in, started her own podcast from scratch, written and directed a sellout run of a one-woman show. She's a champion of truth, love, and light, and everything creative she puts herself into, she shares openly and vulnerably with the world in hopes to inspire them. She's open and raw and authentic and real, and doesn't the world need a little bit more of that these days?
Jenessa, thank
Hi.
you so much for being a part of this initial, very first video of this project. It's incredibly a thrill to have you doing this with me. Do you have any COVID confessions? I mean, is there anything that's happened for you in isolation that you're like, did not expect that about my personality? Yeah, that's an interesting light bulb.
Everything.
Do
Everything
tell.
has come through in my personal. You know what? Wow. Okay, I was sorry. Let's just go deep right away. I realized the other day, there's just some petty parts of my personality that I was not prepared for, that I needed to shut down, but alas, here we are. I don't know, there's something about when you can't see people regularly and you just do a lot of reflection. I feel like that's the big thing for me, is I've been doing a ton of reflecting on particularly life choices or friendships. And this has been sort of I think that's been overturning in my life now for 2 years, where I've just been mulling over who is my circle and who is in my life and what that looks like and what that means and what they're adding or what I can contribute to those relationships. And man, I think recently it's just been interesting to see those things get put to the test. I know that I've told you, but I haven't told our audience yet, but my dad got cancer in June. And so he's actually doing really well, but I think that experience too was just one more thing on top of several things. So it was just okay, 2020, you're really coming for my throat, aren't you? But, and I just kind of felt like I needed support, and it's been a process to just in general. Again, we're just going deep right away. But for me to be somebody who asks for support has not necessarily been my initial greatest strength. So I have been learning how to ask for that. And I just, I reached out to certain friends, and just some of them have really been there and some of them have really not. And I just think that stuff has become apparent. So I've kind of learned I have a very emotional side, and I just think it's worth kind of investing in and protecting at some level. And that is something that I don't think I was doing before. I think I can really out logic myself into a state of understanding and being compassionate for other people, which is, that's a gift. I like that part of myself, but there's also a sense that I can get walked over. I consider COVID to be the reshuffling of the deck. That's what I've been describing it as.
Great. I love that.
So for me, I've seen some people who were just living their best life before COVID just really plummet. And I've seen certain people who were just trying to break into some kind of new thing in their life, finally get that opportunity because of COVID. And so there's just a lot of I don't know, things are changing for people. But I think it has brought a certain level of authenticity with people too, where it's like, I just don't really feel like pretending, because it's already taking so much of my emotional capacity to survive, or to, you know, to get to work, or to get, you know, through these emotional things. So
Everything is heightened all of a sudden, and the stakes are so much higher.
I'm amazed. I'm amazed by the amount of breakdowns I've had this year. Like full on screaming, crying. Like I previously saw myself as a stable person. It's like those illusions at the moment are gone. Bye. We don't care about those anymore.
So you are an actor, a writer, a director, producer, a musician, a singer, a vlogger, a podcaster, an entrepreneur. Have I missed anything? You know, if you go back to little Jenessa, when you were younger, when you were a kid, out of all of those things, what's the thing that kind of rose to the surface first?
When I was a kid, we had a creek in our backyard. So we, like, our backyard didn't have like real grass. It was like kind of a ditch with creek and sort of grass down there. And there was like this little, it sounds more idyllic than it probably actually was. It was kind of like a little bit of a rotting house, but it was kind of cute. And we pretended to like have like a playhouse or whatever. But I just, the thing that I honestly remember doing as a kid is like, I would just be outside for hours, and I pretended that I was on my own TV show called The Jenny Show. I don't remember what it was about. I don't know if it was interesting. I won't speak to that. I mean, that only God has that footage, really. But it was just like, I would be running around. And I think then it got into as well, like my family were big Survivor fans. And so I don't know if it's that reality TV, and I just pretended like I was on Survivor in the backyard. Even at that age, it's sort of difficult to describe what the first thing was, because I think that even at that time, I was creating my own show in my mind. But it's funny, no one will believe this, obviously, because of the way that my personality is. But at the time, I kind of remember being shy, actually, like when I was a kid, like really little.
Do you think, though, with all these different things that you're doing, acting, writing, producing, is there one you do that you feel your voice comes through most authentically?
I would say writing. I remember like so I got my theater degree, and when I was in school, I remember I hadn't really done much writing. I didn't consider myself a writer. I was like an actor. That's what I did. Mm-hmm. But the thing about acting is like, yes, you bring so much authenticity of yourself to that character, but you're still playing somebody else. And at the end of the day, I would prefer to like sacrifice it. You know, sometimes you adopt something that would be very true to the character, but you would never really partake in that in your real life, or it's just not really like how you function. Like the way your brain works will be different than the characters say. But in writing, it's like every character, in a sense, yes, it's other people that I know or that I engage with, but at some level they're me, because they're my perception of that person. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so I just feel like, when I was in school, I remember there was, I think it was fourth year, that there was something where we had to kind of create a 10-minute piece. And I was like, really, I don't know, it really made me kind of upset. There was just like a lot of anxiety and like all this stuff going on, and self-doubt, because I had to use my voice. And I felt like that was very foreign to me or something. But then when I did it, I could sense a resistance about creating, like not just actively like collaborating with a character or with a director, but creating from scratch on my own. I could sense resistance about creating. And I thought, that's very telling. Like, why do I sense that there is resistance here? And then as time went on, I kind of have been doing more and more of it. And now I kind of can get that. I just feel like what I have to say is valuable and important. And I think that there's some level of like life-givingness that I want to give. And so I don't know, it's been like there's been a lot of blocks at times that I've had to kind of go through.
Resistance. I want to talk about resistance for a second, because that is a huge thing that it's a big word in my world as well. Do you know Stephen Pressfield?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
When you start to feel that resistance thing coming up, what does it feel like?
Well, I don't consider myself to be somebody who generally struggles with like anxiety or that kind of thing, but I've just noticed when it's created from me, it's like a whole self-imploding, like there will be perfectionism, of course, but there's just a lot of doubts in a way that I just don't really have doubts when when I have a script, it's like, okay, this is the groundwork, this is the foundation. Somebody's given that to you. And ironically, wanting to be yourself, but then again, I guess this is my whole journey, but expressing something actually from you, like actually your voice, or actually that you created, is just, it's a lot more vulnerable, I would say. It's just Confessions of COVID is just, there are so many personal growth moments and boundaries and emotions, and just, it is self-worth, babe, because it's just letting ourselves be like, okay,
Yeah.
and
okay,
messy.
in the middle of it. Okay, in the middle of the mess. I want to get to the place where I look at the mess and not just be okay with it, but go,
kind of beautiful.
It's kind of beautiful. It's beautiful because of the mess. There's so many people who I've spoken to who come from different backgrounds, different religions, maybe even no religion, but there's often at least some element of faith in there. I would love to hear about what your journey of your faith looks like, and what is that, how has that influenced you? How has it influenced your art?
My parents are Christians. They didn't become Christians. I think my story almost starts with them, because they didn't become Christians until their 20s, almost late 20s. So neither of them grew up in the church. They basically gave us the choice of like, hey, like this is like what we believe, and kind of tried to educate us at a young age. Very open to questions, very open to discussion. In fact, encouraged it, really. They didn't want to just be like, because I told you so, and that's the end, right? Although occasionally just don't run in the road. You know what I mean? Like, I get it, right? But there's a line. But we went to, we've gone to church my whole life. I'm just like sold out on Jesus. Like, I'm super into the thing. Like, I'm super into it. It's like a relationship that I just feel unconditional love in. And I have, and it's like, it's crazy, the growth. And I feel like even being in this industry, I'm so proud of my people who do this without any kind of faith, because it's like, how do you do that? Like, for me, I'm like so reliant on God. If you can imagine it as a perfect relationship where it's like, hey, I love you, you can come to me with anything. Like, I want you, you're my child, you're precious, you're valuable, this is home, this is family. Like, there is nothing, you can't outrun family. I mean, he says in scripture, he goes, I am. It's so vague. It's bad for branding. We're talking about branding, like you would want to name it. It's like, no, it's like, I'm like, he's so much, you can't even pinpoint exactly what it is, but it's like a father, it's like a best friend, it's a relationship, it's cherished, it's playful. I think God laughs a lot. That's my personal opinion. There's all that stuff. And so for me, of course it impacts, it's like my marriage in a way. It's like, that's of course that's going to impact my life and my conversations and my decisions and my faults and all of that stuff.
And so I want to ask you about a little bit about this twinning, the what is it called?
KindaTwinny.
KindaTwinny, that's it. Yeah. Tell me about KindaTwinny.
Yes. So it's new. So basically, my friend Anne Christine and I started a production company. I wanted to start a production company because I wanted to be able to say yes to creative impulses. The completed work we've done is we created a music video for a band called The Crescent Sky, and they created, not to be confused with, because it's kind of similar theme, a song called Northern Lights. And so we made their music video for them, and that was
cool.
really, really cool to make a music video. And it's nice because there was no audio to deal with because they did that, but we made a music video for them, and getting to do that was awesome. And now we are almost finished wrapping up a project for a commercial for a company in Abbotsford called Sip Chai Cafe, and they are actually trying to launch worldwide a website to sell chai tea online.
Well, and what I love about that, even the little video that you have up on YouTube, is that as you guys are kind of explaining who you are and what you're about, what you want to do, is that it's about transparency in also kind of taking you along the journey of where you guys are going.
A lot of my creative projects, my podcast included, actually were kind of born out of this idea too, that I looked around, especially like I said in Abbotsford, there's really nothing going on here, but I don't actually believe that in a town of this many people that there aren't a ton of creatives here. Like, I just don't believe that. Or even on this side of the bridge, like there have to be so many artists. And I just thought, man, you know, it's almost like I'm looking around, like trying to find that person who can, with their hand down, that can kind of pull me up. And I'm just not really seeing it. And so I'm just like, oh, maybe that's me. Maybe I have to go out and like learn some stuff. And then my hope is, if I'm learning and growing and you know, doing like learning tricks of the trade, both practically and emotionally, like practically, like with film, with KindaTwinny, like we're going to share like editing tips or things we've kind of learned along the way. But it's like, maybe other people are like, I just really want to do this, but I don't know how. Like, I just don't know how. And like, frankly, neither did we, but it's like, maybe you don't have to search for as long as I did, because you can watch our stuff and get that information. So it is a community building thing, because we want people to have access to art making. I just think in this time, especially, it's so important that people can express.
There's this incredible ability for you to let yourself be seen, which I think is different than performance.
Yeah.
But when I perform, I step on the stage and I'm like, here I am, world, take me.
Right.
But there's something different about allowing something to be seen. Where does it come from for you? Like, what is it about that?
That's a great question. I think it just comes from my deep need to see someone. There have been so many situations in which I have felt like nobody's talking about this. Like, how do you get these things to occur? Everything I'm doing, that's my career. That's my career. I just know that. And so I guess I just am like looking around, I'm like, you know, like just some real practical things, like how do we make money while we're waiting, when agents aren't accepting people? And I'm not going to not get an agent. One day I will get one. But in this moment, how do I survive until then? Or that's just one example of, like, say last year. Or, you know, I want to produce stuff, but I've never done this before. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
And I also just think that there is something, again, this rebel part of my personality, where there's so much, and I know we get sick of it. I mean, I equally love it at times and hate it at times, where it's like, you know, people putting their best stuff on social media, and it's just like, but it's not real. Like, I just can't handle the fakeness of it. But at the same time, I love a good edited, beautiful model shot. Like, girl,
For sure.
get it. I'm not saying I don't love it. I will double tap so quick for that heart on that like. Don't believe that I won't. You know what I mean? I love your sparkly eyes and that glow. I'm not saying I don't live for it.
Why do you need to have one or the other? Maybe we can have both.
I think we can. And I should say this too, because I think it's important. I don't think it's the social media's fault. I don't think it's the platform. I think it's us and how we treat it and what we do with it. Life has to be more than social media, and there has to be ways that we can be, you know, just our most authentic self on it. I mean, recently I was just a part of a short film with my friend Miriam Berry, shout out to her, called Rise, that was very much about kind of the Black Lives Matter. I'll just put it like this. It was a situation of like how not necessarily about the movement, but just about how some of these things we don't think occur actually occur all the time in the workspace, for example. And it was just an observation on that, and so cool to be a part of. And to me, I'm like, okay, see, I love this because I can actually be a part of something that's authentic to me and my art making that actually is going to make a difference rather than just be a hashtag or whatever. And that can actually educate people and can actually bring life and joy and understanding and compassion and all those things. So anyway, there's lots of ways to be creative on social media about doing things in a more authentic way.
I came across this quote, and I just want to see if it sparks anything for you. The song I wrote months ago, but never had the courage to put it up anywhere in public. I'm working on that.
Yeah, that's
beautiful. Does it sound familiar?
It does sound very familiar. Did I say it? Did somebody else say it? Did I say that?
You said that.
And I just said it's beautiful. That's amazing.
Yeah. It is beautiful. You said that you have a song that you wrote.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yes. A long time ago.
It's called Arrow.
Yes. Oh my goodness. That's too funny. Yeah. That's before I even had any singing training. Look at me backtracking already. Yes. Wow. I really said that. I said, I'm working on that.
Yeah. You said
8 years ago.
The song I wrote months ago, but never had the courage to put it up anywhere in public. I'm working on that. And I love this quote for so many reasons, but number one, the words itself I think is beautiful. But it's so telling. It's so telling, wow. Jenessa, that you said that 8 years ago, because it's almost prophetic in where you are now. And so it to me, it is unbelievably inspiring. You are unbelievably inspiring because you have basically lived that out. And by doing something like that, which was just a simple video of you playing a song that you wrote, which is incredible, but it's doing something that's very vulnerable, and you knew that, and you knew it cost you something, but you did it anyway. You did exactly what you're talking about, right? You just did it in fear. I think it's easy for us to get swept up in how we need to present ourselves to the world so that people accept us. I like the idea of talking about the marvelous messy middle, because it's kind of where we are right now in this whole COVID thing. Yeah. But especially as artists and entrepreneurs, where the middle transformation stuff, that's the hard stuff. And it's also the stuff that we don't usually talk about, right? And so I think it's really important to have those conversations and bring light to it. And you do that through the stuff that you do. So you kind of are doing the JennyGal show, or the Jenny show. You know, your life is the Jenny show. It's sort of that's the beautiful thing. And the messy bits and all. Do you have any other words of wisdom to people who are going through the messy bits of their life right now?
Yeah, the messy bits. I think, my advice right now is find 3 people that are just awesome that can encourage you. 3, has to be 3 for some reason in my mind. It's the holy number, so let's go with it. But I think whether that's, maybe you can choose one that's like family, and choose one that is just a really supportive friend, and maybe one that's kind of like a mentor, either in the creative world or business world or whatever you're doing. But 3 people to tell you you're not insane, because I think we've spent a lot of time with ourselves, and I think we need that community and that support system. And it doesn't have to be much. At least for me, I don't need much, but I need something. You need oil to keep you going. You need some gas in the tank. And so my thought is, especially if you're about to engage in any kind of self-discovery, counseling, anything like that, like unpacking some deeper stuff, which I think a lot of us are in COVID, any kind of depression, any anxiety, all that stuff, you need support. I think support system. you know, like listening to good podcasts like this, or putting good stuff into your ears, putting positive, I know my podcast is like that. I know just Gary V, he's like an entrepreneur. He talks a lot about just have positivity in your ears, you know, including his show. So that's one too. But it doesn't even have to be just that. And I think it is also important for it to be somebody that you can talk to, like have an actual dialogue with, not just in your ears. So
you're awesome.
thanks,
I adore
man.
you. You've been such an inspiration for me. I couldn't have found somebody better to start this, and it's such a lovely and generous thing. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
I'm so glad. It's so good. The marvelous, messy middle.
Officially been popped.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. Thanks so much, babe.